What's up, everybody? Kamal here. Welcome to another video. So today what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at... Sorry, making sure I got everything going correctly. I wanted to look at this article that I saw posted by Gamerant. And I just started recording this, but 12 minutes in... Oh, I just scratched my shoulder and now there's marks. Fuck. 12 minutes in, I realized I had only gotten done with the first class on this list, so I wanted to kind of go through it a little bit quicker, not waste quite as much time. Before I get into this video, if you like stuff like this, if you like what I'm doing here, if you like my videos, or if you just like me, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and I'm trying to continually do more Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 build type videos, Diablo 4 news, Diablo 2 resurrected news, all that kind of stuff. So please let me know down in the comment section below if there's any type of information that you're looking for on Diablo 2, any type of builds that you want to see in Diablo 2, and I will do my best to oblige. So let's get in. This is posted by Gamerant, and it says Diablo 2 every class ranked. Now, I firmly believe, and there is no one that's going to be able to prove me wrong on this because it just simply isn't true. What I'm going to say is true. Every class can excel in the right hands. Every class is capable of doing everything in the game in the right hands. There you go. If you fundamentally understand how the game works, how the boss or the thing that you're going up against works, as well as how your class works, the ins and outs of your class, you can do anything in the game. Every class has the possibility of being S tier. This is the truest form, in my opinion, of player skill shining through. Is there gear dependence? Yes and no. I've seen people on a sorceress take down Ubers using no rune words at all. So, take that. Obviously, these people are far, far more skilled than I am. That's fine. I saw that and I was just mind blown. Anyways, let's look at this. It does show all 7 classes in Diablo 2. They have them ranked from least to worst. And you can probably imagine what they're going to do for the first class or the worst class in their opinion, because it's essentially exactly what I presumed it would be. Let's go ahead and read through this and jump into it. Diablo 2 has a ton of different classes. Also, this person is really terrible at sentence structure. And I would say comprehensive writing. So I'm going to be making some alterations, some changes as I'm reading through this. Diablo 2 has a ton of different classes, each specializing in something different. This is how they all compare and rank. Very few games have managed to achieve the iconic status of Diablo. With Diablo 2 Resurrected and Diablo 4 just around the corner, now is the perfect time to dive back into the franchise and get ready for these upcoming titles. Out of all of the Diablo games, it's the second entry that has brought the series into the limelight and amassed a cult following all over the world. Despite the fact that it was released over 20 years ago, thousands of players continue to play it to this day. One of the factors that continue to drive the game's popularity is the high replay value. With 7 character classes, each one with a unique skill set, and multiple specifications players can choose to pursue, disagreements regarding which class is the best rage on within the community still to this day. It should come as no surprise, since each character has its own unique strengths and weaknesses. The paladin can excel where the barbarian may fail, and the sorceress's magic is fundamentally different from the druid's mastery of forces of nature. Now, that is, for the most part, true, but once again, the most important thing that comes to making a successful build in Diablo 2 is understanding the character and understanding what you're going against. It's just like with most games of old. You have to not only know what you yourself is trying to do and how to do it properly, but you also have to fundamentally comprehend what the enemy's weaknesses are and what they're going to be doing so that you can counteract to it. Now, a lot of the times when you make a build super in-game, super strong, full of rune words, you can just smack your face against the wall and eventually it'll break down. Worst case scenario, you'll get a bloody nose. But when you're a newer player, you don't know the ins and outs like that. There is a very, very deep knowledge base to kind of dive into when it comes to Diablo. So let's go in and let's see what they're saying about the Barbarian, which is what they have marked as the worst class out of the 7 classes in Diablo 2. The Barbarian is probably the most basic class to use in Diablo 2. Yes and no. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's worthless, but there are some significant drawbacks to using this character. First of all, he is extremely reliant on gear, regardless of the build. This is true and false. Now, the way that they frame it, or the way that it's said, is it's extremely reliant on gear. Now, you can take that as 2 different ways. You can take that as he's extremely reliant on specific gear pieces, which is inaccurate. That's a very simplistic way of looking at him. You want to get specific stats. You want to hit specific breakpoints, specific thresholds with stats on your gear. So in that sense, he is gear dependent, but you don't need to have the best of the best at the top to excel at this character. Another thing that makes this character surprisingly good for early on leveling is the fact that 9 skills into double swing and it costs no mana. He's the only class in the game that I can think of right now that has a skill that costs 0 mana. None. At all. 0. Which means you can stand there with 0 mana leech and you can just keep swinging all day long and your mana never moves. That's incredible. He's also the only character in the game that I know of that has a taunt. The assassin has a stun, in a sense. The paladin has a stun, but he has an actual taunt, and he has a fear. The fear is the one that I meant to say, not the taunt. The fear is extremely, extremely good. Let's go on though. It says his skill trees are definitely the least attractive amongst all of the ones players can find in the game, especially early on. Abilities such as the mastery of basic weapons, such as swords, axes, and maces, fade in comparison with the necromancer, who can summon useful and quite powerful skeletons from the very first level. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the necromancer is better just because at level 1 you can summon a skeleton with the necromancer. That just proves more so, I guess not proves, but it more so pushes towards my idea that games journalists generally will write these stories after reading a wiki page about the characters or playing each character for 10 minutes and not actually diving into what the characters are capable of doing. And I really don't like that because it gives this very simplistic view of things, and people will go on and they'll read these and they'll be like, oh, the barbarian shit. And it's like, no, this person just simply doesn't understand what they're talking about. But let's go on. It says, nonetheless, players with the right amount of skill and dedication can create a powerful barbarian build. His advanced abilities such as Warcry or Whirlwind allow the character to wipe enemies off the map almost effortlessly. Okay. Beginners embarking on their first playthrough might want to opt for a different class, if only because of the lack of power early on. Early level abilities that make the early stages of the game more difficult than they should be. Experienced players who are up for the challenge can turn the barbarian into a tank that rips through anything that comes his way. That last part is true. You can't turn the barbarian into a tank that rips through absolutely anything. You guys have seen my barbarian builds. When I first started playing the game, I wholeheartedly agreed that the barbarian was a very simplistic character. I didn't think it was that good. I didn't think it was that fun, that great. So I didn't play it. I recently started playing the barbarian more, and I found out that I was wrong. Barbarian is extremely good, and if you understand the character better, then you'll have a way better time. Next, we have the assassin. One of the 2 classes that were introduced to the game later on with the Lord of Destruction DLC. The assassin is a quite interesting character lore-wise, but she falls short when it comes to some of her in-game abilities. The character class specializes in sneaky combat tactics and diversion. It makes her fun to play around with, but players new to Diablo 2 should not expect to have an easy time defeating the prime evils as the assassin. That's... Anybody ever heard of a trapsin? Because trapsins are insane. What about a kicksin? Anybody ever heard of a kicksin? What about the meme whirlwind assassin? Never heard about those? No? All these builds are extremely strong and completely destroy the primevals. So once again, complete just not understanding of the character. The best assassin skills to invest in early on are Tiger Strike and Cobra Strike. They may not be as flashy as some of the low-level abilities of the stronger classes, but they're reliable and efficient ways to... No. Tiger and Cobra Strike, if you invest in those, you're investing in melee. Invest in your traps early on. Don't be a fucking idiot like this person. Invest in traps. If you're going for a kicksin and you know what you're doing, yeah, do it. Do it up. But traps are by far the best thing that an assassin can use. These traps are extremely powerful. It says, but they're reliable and efficient ways to strike devastating blows. Experienced Diablo fans should spend some time upgrading the assassin's traps, as they can prove to be invaluable sources of support in combat, especially against larger hordes of foes. Not invaluable sources of support, the entirety of your class. Trap Assassin is one of the most reliable and overpowered magic finding builds in the game, because of the ability to just completely tear through things that aren't even on the screen. Invest in traps, and you won't feel like the assassin isn't good. Next, we have the Amazon. The Amazon is ranked number 5. The Amazon is a versatile class, highly skilled in using ranged weapons. It's quite popular among Diablo 2 newbies and veterans alike, as she is fairly easy to get used to, but proves a challenge to master. I wouldn't say she is a challenge to master at all. She's extremely simplistic for most of her builds. Aside from bows and crossbows, the Amazon can be highly effective as a spear-using build as well. This gives players who prefer to engage in close-quarter combats the support to try out this class. While going for a light jab Amazon build that interchangeably uses spears and javelins is certainly a feasible option, the ranged variant with a maxed out bow and crossbow skill tree can turn out to be a much more satisfying and powerful, especially for newcomers. Well, the Boazon can be extremely powerful, and it can be extremely fun, but the Boazon is almost, if not more, gear dependent than the Barbarian that you were just complaining about. So, I would say the less gear dependent thing would be a Jabazon. If you go with the light Jabazon, the builds, I mean, you don't really need anything, actually. There's been quite a few different ladders that I've started out with the Jabazon because I can go to a waypoint, and just like I was saying with the Assassin, I can stand at the waypoint and just throw my fucking javelins, walk forward, and pick up loot. Jabazons are insanely strong. Insanely strong. Strife Boazons are Strafe Boazons are extremely strong as well. Same thing. Just very simplistic explanations of the classes. The Boazon, as this build is referred to within the Diablo community, can wreak ranged havoc on a scale that the other classes simply can't compete with. That's just objectively false as well. Number 4, the Druid. It's a very weird looking Druid. Along with the Assassin, the Druid was added to Diablo 2 with the Lord of Destruction expansion. A lot of fans refer to him as the most well-rounded class in the game. On the other hand, the rest of the community deems druids useless in the long run. I don't think there's very many people that deem druids useless. Maybe people that are very, very like my class is the best class and every other class is shit. Maybe those type of people. But in general, people understand that the druid is not worthless or useless. Most people understand that every single class in Diablo 2 has their place and has the ability to be extremely strong. It goes, there is some truth to both statements. Diablo 2's druids are in fact the most versatile class in the game. They have the conjuring abilities usually associated with necromancers, combat spells comparable to those of the sorceress, and they are quite skilled when it comes to using swords and maces. They also have the unique ability to shapeshift into a werewolf or a werebear. Most of the popular druid builds focus on skills in one way or another. Focus on that skill in one way. Oh, okay. On one way or another, whether it be a rabies werewolf that primarily uses rabies skill. That's actually pretty difficult to pull off in standard Diablo, just normal Diablo 2 LOD. Seems much more capable in Project Diablo 2. That's something that I was kind of playing around with during this ladder of Project Diablo 2. I got some of the stuff that made it seem like it would be extremely good, but I just never actually made it and played through. Continue onwards, it says, or a maul bear, a werebear with maul as his primary attack. There are alternatives, such as the natural summoner or beastmaster that focuses on summoning creatures and backing them up with melee weapon attacks. It is worth noting that while one can successfully master the druid class, his magical and summoning abilities are significantly worse than those of the sorceress and necromancer, respectively. Such is the price of versatility. I mean, the summoning thing I could agree with. I don't know if I'd agree with this with the spell one though. Cyclone druids are extremely strong. They're extremely good magic finders. They're extremely good in PvP. Just again, it's gonna be like on repeat. You've got to know what you're doing. For players who want to dabble in a little bit of everything, though, the druid is the best class for a jack-of-all-trades type build. Number 3, we have the necromancer. We're getting to the top 3. So obviously we know number 2 and number 1 is source and paladin. If you didn't presume that the source and paladin would be number 1, then maybe you have never played Diablo 2. The necromancer class is the most suitable one for players who are new to isometric ARPGs. The game allows necromancers to summon skeletons from the start, laying down the groundwork of the following the path of a summoner build. One of the most powerful builds in all of Diablo 2. It seems like this person really liked the necromancer and maybe new to ARPGs. Once leveled up enough, the necromancer will have the potential to create a true army of the undead that will handle most of the dirty combat work. There is also nothing stopping you from taking the alternative route and creating a Novamancer build. It relies less on summoning creatures, but rather on using the Poison Nova skill. That creates a poison ring around the character, dealing damage to all enemies, though, if you get too close. Finally, all Necromancer builds will benefit from a few points invested in Corpse Explosion. As one of the most overpowered spells in the entire game, it is extremely powerful when clearing out some of the more crowded dungeons. One thing that they don't even mention is the curses that necromancers have. When you're summoning necromancer, you can actually curse just about any physical immunities off of enemies, which makes it to where your necro or your summons can just kind of destroy everything. Necromancers are extremely good when played right. And the other thing that they didn't mention is actually one of the most popular builds is not a poison mancer. Most people don't play poison mancers. They either play a summoning necro or a spirit You can either do Bone Spirit or not Spirit, but Bone. So they call it a P&B Necro because it's Poison and Bone, which is the skill tree. But you focus on bone skills, be it Teeth, or which really isn't that good in normal standard Diablo. It's a lot better on like Project Diablo, Path of Diablo, or like Bone Spirit, or Bone Spirit Self. Those two are the that's the most common is the Bone build. But once again, I don't think the person writing this article has a very deep understanding of the game or of the classes, but it is what it is. Yeah, you guys know I don't like journalists. The Sorceress is an incredibly powerful class, and one of the most entertaining ones to play as. This is because of her versatile magic skill tree, which brands out to 3 spell categories: fire, lightning, and cold. Their clear distinction into 3 elemental types of magic makes build creation a very straightforward affair, even for complete ARPG noobs. Sorceress builds based around a single element can deal substantial damage, even in the final acts of Diablo 2, whether it's the Fireball Sorceress or the cold-focused Frozen Orb Sorceress. This class makes for the perfect first playthrough choice. Advanced players who want to wreak havoc on an online mode might want to experiment with builds like a Blizzball Sorceress. What? Okay. Blizzball is more of a single player type thing, not an online thing. The reason that Blizzball is not played online is because online it's much easier to get things like Infinity or very, very overpowered gear so that you don't need to run to carry on. Or take another route and try their luck as the Melee Source. Melee Source is one of my favorite builds in the game. I love the Melee Source. There's so many different ways you can build it too. Number 1 is the Paladin, of course. The Paladin is the epitome of a video game good guy. As such, many players may find using him quite a boring ordeal, but in fact, he is the most powerful one out of all the playable Diablo 2 classes. The Paladin has access to a variety of magical or melee skills. On top of that, he is also adept at using ranged weapons. Do you know that a sorceress has the ability called Enchant, which makes them more adept at using ranged weapons than a paladin is? Anyways, although if that's your preferred playstyle, then the Amazon would be a much better choice. The most popular paladin build by far is the Hammerden. It deals insanely high damage thanks to a lot of points invested into the Blessed Hammer skill, with the associated Vigor and Blessed Aim abilities on top of that. No. Let's not. This is basically a wiki article written out. So yeah, I guess you do put points into Blessed Aim, Vigor, and Blessed Aim, but the Vigor is only the prerequisite for Blessed Hammer. It makes Blessed Hammer stronger. It's so... I feel... Have people commented on this? I feel like people should just stop writing articles about video games if they don't actually play the video game. There's so much surface level information and incorrect surface level information in this article that it frustrates me to no living end. When it comes to Diablo 2, pick the class that looks the most fun for you to play, and you'll be able to make it work if you want to. Any class in Diablo 2 can wield just about any weapon. I say just about because a barbarian cannot wield a paladin shield, or but I think they can actually wield the paladin scepter. Maybe not, I may be wrong on that, but they can't wield a paladin shield. A druid cannot wear a barbarian helm. A necromancer can't wield a sorceress's orb. That's just... But a bow? You can throw a bow on any class in the game. You can make any class in the game melee, though some better than others. It takes a lot to make a good melee source. But what it really comes down to with this game is player skill, player ability. If you're willing to spend the time that it takes to fully understand and comprehend your class, then you'll be fine. You'll be able to succeed in the game. If you're not willing to actually invest the time to figure out what can make the class that is most interesting to you the best it can be, then go play a fucking source or a paladin. I mean, those classes are extremely overpowered. Just simply for what they have. The source is extremely overpowered, mostly because of the teleport and energy shield abilities. Those are extremely strong. The big downside is that no matter what specialization, no matter what magic type you specialize in, you're going to come across immunes. With the paladin, they don't necessarily have teleport. I mean, you can get it with Enigma. But their Blessed Hammer abilities, they just do flat out magic damage. It's just magic damage. It's not a magical damage type. Like, it's not lightning, cold, fire, or poison. It's not physical damage. It's just magic damage. There's like 4 to 7 packs in the entire game that are immune to magic, and you almost never see them. Paladins are extremely strong. But I would say, no matter what your interest is in these classes, or no matter what class you're most interested in Diablo 2, pick it up, play it. You'll probably have a good time. Anyways, you guys know how it goes. I'm out!